Good evening. Welcome to the 2020 Curtis Hoff Awards. I'm Becca Ballant, the Majority Leader in the Senate, and I'm delighted to be your MC tonight. Tonight, we honor the memory of David W. Curtis and Governor Phil Hoff and celebrate the volunteers and the civic leaders of our party. David Curtis and Governor Phil Hoff were both the embodiment of political engagement and public service, and that dedication will be reflected tonight in this year's award winners. It's important for us to take this time to celebrate and to find joy, because obviously 2020 has been a long, strange fever dream, and we need some light wherever we can find it. Due to the global pandemic, we're holding our annual award ceremony virtually tonight. And I know as an introvert myself, it's hard for me that we're not together in person. But I can't wait until the time when we'll be gathering again and feel the excitement that we all share as Democrats, people who want to make positive change in the lives of Vermonters. But there are some upsides to this format. The cocktails are cheaper. You won't have to wait in line for the bathroom, and you can control who you're sitting next to. But we're excited that so many Vermonters are going to be able to follow the award show online and through Vermont Public Television. Many generous sponsors made this evening possible. Senator Patrick Leahy, Friends of Bernie Sanders, Peter Welch for Congress, Zuckerman for Vermont, Molly Gray for Vermont, Jane and Bill Stetson, the Massachusetts and Northern New England Laborers District, the Vermont NEA, United Steelworkers, District 4, TJ Donovan for Vermont, Beth Pierce for State Treasurer, Lydia Spitzer and Dottie Deans, Jim Kondo, Secretary of State, Doug Hoffer, State Auditor, State Representative Maida Townsend, the firm of MMR, Patricia Heinberg, Rebecca Holcomb, Pat Robbins, Brian Sheldon, and Alexandra Nicole Thron. Their contributions are making it possible to reach all of you out there tonight. So when you see any of these folks, please thank them for their generous donation. I believe in the generosity of Vermonters. I believe in our creativity and our resilience. I know these past 4 years have been excruciating, and the past several months have felt utterly surreal. But we Democrats are not cynical, and we believe change is possible. We aren't content with the status quo. Tonight, we'll celebrate some of our leaders who push for positive change in our state, in our nation, and in our communities. So let's get this party started. Our first speaker tonight is Bruce Olson. Bruce stepped up to be the chair of the state Democratic Party when Terry Anderson rightly decided it was time to put his health first. Bruce hit the ground running and is hard at work preparing us for the upcoming election. Bruce Olson.
And good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Vermont Democratic Party, I'd also like to welcome you to this evening's Curtis Hoff Awards. First, I'd like to personally thank all of our sponsors for making it possible for us to meet virtually tonight. Your contributions are truly vital to electing Democrats up and down the ballot this fall. I'd also want to thank the many people whose tireless efforts behind the scenes have contributed to the success of this event. First and foremost, our thanks to our party's finance director, Kate Olney, who relentlessly shepherded the staff and volunteers who put together tonight's event, from the event's virtual inception to this evening's presentation. It's not an exaggeration to say that this most unusual of Curtis Hoff Awards would not have happened without Kate's leadership and perseverance. Thank you, Kate. I'd also like to thank the team that worked with Kate: Sherry Merrick, Dottie Deans, Mary Sullivan, Tess Taylor, Billy Gosh, Sarah Swank, Linda Gravel, Bob Farnham, CCTV Productions, Asha Carroll, and Scott McNeil for all of their hard work behind the scenes to put on a great show, reception, raffle, and auction. And now, as our community comes together to celebrate the lives and work of David Curtis and Philip Hoff, I want to remind everyone that these two pioneers were critical to the revitalization of the Vermont Democratic Party in the 20th century. And today, their lasting legacies continue to shape and inform the party as we confront the challenges of the 21st century. With the election just 4 weeks away, I'd like to take a moment to thank the following legislators who will be retiring this year after many years of service to the people of Vermont. From Bennington 2-1, Chris Bates. From Caledonia, Washington, Catherine Toll. From Chittenden District, Tim Ash. From Chittenden 1, Marcia Gardner. From Chittenden 2, Terry McCaig. From Chittenden 6-2, Jean O'Sullivan. From Chittenden 6-5, one of our honorees, Joey Donovan. Also from Chittenden 6-5, Mary Sullivan. From Chittenden 8-1, Dylan Giambattista. From Lamoille 2, Matt Hill. From Orange, Caledonia, Chip Conquest. From Orleans, Caledonia, Sam Young. From Wyndham 3, Matt Schreiber. From Wyndham 4, Nadar Hashim. And from Windsor 2, Anne-Marie Christensen. And many thanks to all of you for joining us this evening and voting blue up and down the ticket on November 3rd. Finally, as part of our annual tradition to recognize outstanding Democrats through our Curtis Hoff Awards, we also remember those who are not with us today. I'd like to leave you with a video of Democrats who have passed away since our last Curtis Hoff event.
Thank you for that really lovely tribute to our dear friends. Now we'll hear from Tom Perez, the chair of the National Democratic Committee. Tom was a federal civil rights prosecutor for the Department of Justice before working for Senator Ted Kennedy. He then served as the director of the Office of Civil Rights at the Department of Health and Human Services in the final years of the Clinton administration. Tom Perez.
Hello, Vermont Democrats. Tom Perez here. First of all, let me give a big thank you to Chairman Bruce Olson and the entire team at the Vermont Democratic Party. I've known Bruce since his time here in the labor movement in Maryland, and I want to say thank you to Bruce for stepping up. And let me congratulate tonight's awardee, Joey Donovan. Happy retirement, Joey. And Terry Anderson, thank you for your critical leadership of the party over the last few years. Terry, our party is deeply, deeply grateful for your service, and we will continue to pray for your good health. I also want to recognize Senator Sanders for his leadership and for his continued efforts to bring Democrats together to help defeat Donald Trump. I've had the privilege of working closely with Senator Sanders over the last 3.5 years, and it's been an honor. Thank you, Senator, for everything you've done. And I used to work on the Senate Judiciary Committee back in the 90s when I worked for Ted Kennedy, and Senator Leahy was on that committee, and I got to know him and all of his Grateful Dead ties back then. Thank you, Senator, for everything you do. Congressman Welch, thank you for what you're doing. You've been fearless champions of Vermont working families in Congress. Vermont's Democratic leaders are making our party and our nation so much stronger every single day. Folks, we're 1 month out of the most important election of our lifetime, 1 month until the weekend. And I'm so excited to see the VDP's hard work translate into victories up and down the ballot in November. In 1 month, we are going to have a huge upset and flip the governor's residence and make sure that David Zuckerman is the next governor of Vermont. We're also going to hold the lieutenant governor's office and make Molly Gray the next LG. We're going to reelect Secretary of State Jim Condos, Auditor Doug Hoffer, Attorney General TJ Donovan, and Treasurer Beth Pierce, whose leadership during the COVID-19 crisis has been essential to making sure that Vermonters are indeed safe. Everything we care about is at stake in this election, from healthcare and the environment to equal pay and reproductive rights. And everyone has got to make a plan to vote and make sure your family and friends do so as well. I applaud Secretary Condo's decision to expand vote by mail during this pandemic. Every Vermonter will be sent a ballot this fall. So make sure to fill it out early and send it back as soon as you can. I'm so proud to be your chair. I'm so proud of the work we've done together. Our unity is our greatest strength and Donald Trump's worst nightmare. I can't wait to see what we're going to accomplish in November. Thank you so much for your hard work and your unflagging commitment to our party and to our nation. Now let's go win. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Next up is one of the true greats, one of our congressional heroes, Senator Patrick Leahy. As we all know so well, Senator Leahy has been a true champion for Vermonters. We see marks of his excellent work all over the state. And now, with the passing of Justice Ginsburg, we have never been more grateful that Senator Leahy is our watchdog on the Judiciary Committee. He's a fighter for all that is decent and right. I know that you'll feel comforted and inspired by his words. Senator Leahy.
You know, it's so nice to just say hello to my fellow Democrats. And I'm so pleased the Vermont Democratic Party has found a creative way for us to celebrate the lives, the legacies of two wonderful people, David Curtis and Phil Hoff. And we do that having our annual Curtis Hoff Awards. You know, I was thinking, as I came to record this, there are so many troubling things going on in our world. I know we're all feeling the weight of the challenges we confront. But for a moment, rather than remind you of what keeps us all up at night, I want to take this time to share what gives me hope and comfort. Besides, of course, my lovely wife of more than half a century, Marcel. I'm so proud of how Vermont has responded to the pandemic. We Vermonters have let science be our guide. We've let our concern for each other guide our actions. Don't you wish we had a president who would do that? I'm proud of how Vermonters have helped each other through this difficult time. And I want to mention how grateful I am to our Secretary of State, Jim Condos. I talk about him because he's a national leader in fair and impartial elections. Elections accessible to all voters. God, I wish that was the same in all states. You know, Jim's rapid and effective switch to early voting made possible the record turnout in the primary election. And I'm thankful that Mayor Pete Buttigieg and Senator Elizabeth Warren made time to join our event. They've represented an historic class of presidential candidates. They showcase the strength and diversity of our party. And I'm excited to see this group now working with soon-to-be President Joe Biden. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Kamala Harris, they both inspired millions of Americans, including myself. Kamala is breaking new barriers. And Justice Ginsburg leaves us with a legacy of barriers broken because of her work. They represent the greatness of our nation and all its possibility. As did John Lewis, we lost only a few weeks earlier, and so many of you who joined me at the Flynn Theater when John was here a year ago. I know how much it meant to him to see you, and how much it meant to us that he came to Vermont. And we have our own women in Vermont who similarly inspire. My good friend, Treasurer Beth Pierce, I so enjoyed campaigning with her. And Lieutenant Governor nominee, and I hope our next Lieutenant Governor, Molly Gray. Marcel and I have spent some time with her this fall. We think she's great. And look at what we have in our legislature, something nobody else could match. Speaker Missy Johnson, House Majority Leader Jill Krowinski, and our Senate Majority Leader Becca Blount. Look at the example we set. These fantastic women are leading with a clear vision for our state. They have a determination to make the vision a reality. Just as my friend and colleague in the Senate, Bernie Sanders, has inspired an entire generation with the possibilities of politics. He's been a clear and consistent voice on issues that matter in the lives of Vermonters, from healthcare to education and beyond. And this year's Curtis Hoff Award winners, Joy Donovan, Terry Anderson, they have long and very deep roots in our party. They are an example of the ability to make a difference through public service. Both have long lists of accomplishments. Neither of them has ever shied away from a good fight. And I thank you for your service. The entire slate of candidates inspire great hope and confidence. And I know you're going to send my good friend Peter Welch back to the Congress. We need him. I need him. Having him in the House, in the Senate, we work together almost every single day. And David Zuckerman, who has honorably served our state, both in the legislature and then as lieutenant governor. And from our statewide candidates to those running in local elections, I'm proud of the work you're doing for our communities and our state. We need you now more than ever. I know Marcel and I will be voting in Middlesex against Donald Trump in this election. I know you will too. He's earned a vote against him. But I want to remind you of all the candidates who will be voting for this election because they've earned it. There's a lot at stake, probably more than any time I can think of. So I want you to encourage you to have faith in democracy, faith in your fellow Americans. I have faith in you, my fellow Vermonters. In this nation, we've lost some giants this year. John Lewis, Elijah Cummings, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But I'd say let their lives, let their legacies inspire you as they do me. Fight for what you believe in. Fight for what you believe in. And as John would say, get in a little good trouble. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Leahy. We are so lucky to have you. And I want to take this moment to just tell everyone out there, a couple years ago, my wife had cancer surgery, and Senator Leahy took time from his really busy schedule to reach out to me to talk about it, because it turned out that his wife, Marcel, and my wife, Elizabeth, had both had the same surgery, and he knew what the recovery was like. And it meant so much to me that he took the time. And it's one of the reasons why I love being a Democrat here in Vermont. It really is one big family looking after one another. I wanted to tell you all that. Here in Vermont, we are fortunate to have two giants represent us in the US Senate. Senator Bernie Sanders ignited a nation with his 2 runs for president. And people across the country learned what we've known for years, that Bernie fights hard every day for regular Vermonters. He has never wavered from his message of income equality and his focus on livable wage and universal health care are ideas that millions of Americans now embrace. So many have been inspired to get involved in politics because of Bernie. I'm so glad he's able to join us here tonight, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Hello, everyone, and thank you all very much for having me join you tonight alongside Senator Leahy, Senator Warren, Congressman Welch, Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman, and many, many other wonderful speakers. And let me take this opportunity to congratulate the 2020 Curtis Hoff Award winners, Terry Anderson and Representative Joanna Donovan. Thank you both so much for your very hard work and your leadership on behalf of the Vermont Democratic Party and the people of the state of Vermont. As you are all more than aware, we are exactly 1 month away from what is, in my view, the most important election, at least since 1864. And what we must do is defeat someone who, in my view, is the most dangerous president in the history of this country. This is a president who is not just a pathological liar. This is not just a president who does not believe in science. And think about what that means when you talk about climate change or the pandemic. This is a president who is in a frightening way, unprecedented way, leading us down the path of authoritarianism. President who says, well, maybe I won't win the election, but I'm not going to leave office. Who is telling the American people in the middle of a pandemic, when so many folks, for all the right reasons, are voting through mail-in ballots, that's all fraud. Mail-in ballots are rampant with fraud. We may not be counting those ballots. So this is a moment in which we must come together to defeat Donald Trump. But this election is not just Donald Trump. This is an election which says that at a time when we are confronting a pandemic which has taken hundreds of thousands of lives, made many, many other people sick, we need to get a handle on this. We need scientists to be leading the effort, not people who are using the pandemic simply for political reasons. That in the middle of an economic collapse, when so many people in America, in Vermont, have lost their jobs, we need to have a government which creates millions of jobs so that all of our people receive the income that they need to survive with dignity. And if they can't work, the government must be there to help them with supplementary unemployment benefits, with health care, to make sure that they're not evicted from their homes, to make sure that their kids are not going hungry. What this election is about is whether or not we move to guarantee health care to all people as a human right, or whether we throw 32 million people off the health care they have, which is what Trump is doing. What this campaign is about is whether or not we raise the minimum wage to a living wage of at least $15 an hour, or we don't. What this campaign is about is whether or not we recognize that climate change is an existential threat to our planet, and that we can lead the world and create millions of jobs in our country, in Vermont, all over America, through energy efficiency and sustainable energy, transforming our transportation system and our agricultural system. That's what this campaign is about. And this campaign is about dealing with a broken and racist criminal justice system and the need to reform police departments all across this country. We do not need to have more people in jail than any other country on earth, disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American. We should be investing in our young people, in education and jobs, not more jails and not more incarceration. And what this campaign is about is whether we continue to demonize the immigrant community or whether we move toward comprehensive immigration reform. What this campaign is about is whether or not we have the courage to tackle the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality where 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of America. And half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck, unable to put aside any money in savings. So this campaign is A, about defeating Trump, but B, it is about working together, bringing our people together, Black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, around a progressive agenda which speaks to the needs of working families and not just the billionaire class. And I would say to my friends here in Vermont, we are making real progress on that all over this country. We're electing progressives not only to the U.S. Congress, we're electing them to state legislatures, and I know we've done a good job in Vermont. We got to keep that up. We're electing them to positions of district attorney and prosecutors all over this country. So our job here in Vermont is to continue that grassroots movement so that we end up having a government which addresses the needs of working families, of low-income families, and of the middle class, and not just worries about the people on top who are doing phenomenally well. So in this unprecedented and dangerous moment in American history, absolutely imperative that all of us do everything that we can to bring more people into the political process to defeat Trump and to create a government and an economy that works for all of us, not just the few. So to everybody watching, thank you all very much for the great work you're doing. Let me thank many of you for the support you've given me personally. Let's go forward together. Let's defeat Trump. Let's transform this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Senator Sanders. In a minute, we'll hear from Congressman Welch. But I want to take a moment to tell you a little story about Peter Welch. A few weeks before the 2016 election, Congressman Welch and I were at a Democratic campaign event, and we chatted for a bit. And partway through the conversation, he leaned in and he said, "Becca, I think you should run for majority leader." And I laughed him off and I said, "I just got here. I can't run for majority leader." And he said, "I'm serious. I want you to think about it. I know you can do it. I've seen you work. Just think about it." And I thanked him and almost immediately forgot about it. But then Trump was elected and it changed everything for so many of us. And I decided the day after Election Day that I would run to be Senate Majority Leader. I'm so grateful for his encouragement, his belief in me, and for all he's done for Vermont, serving us so ably in the House of Representatives. Congressman Peter Welch.
Good evening, Vermont Democrats. I'm delighted to be with you on the first virtual Curtis Hoff dinner. It's a great night when we get to honor those among us who have served us for decades doing the hard work of building a Democratic Party. And of course tonight, Representative Joey Donovan, thank you so much for your 20 years of service, always standing up for the little person, helping those who really need help. And especially I want to thank you for all your advocacy for LGBTQ rights. You've been a champion. And Terry Anderson, thank you too. You've had the job that is so hard, chair of the Vermont Democratic Party. And we appreciate all you've done for candidates from the top to the bottom of the ticket and for your advocacy on HIV/AIDS. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Mayor Pete for being our keynote speaker. You honor us, and you honored us with your tremendous presidential campaign that was inclusive and visionary. And I want to thank too Senator Leahy and Senator Sanders. It's such a pleasure to work with you and be part of the Vermont team in Washington every day in our effort to stand up and resist the terrible policies of President Trump, and in every day doing all we can to bring resources back to Vermont to help Vermonters get through the economic collapse that occurred as a result of COVID. And we have wonderful statewide office holders, and they're going to return. TJ Donovan, Attorney General, thank you for your advocacy, standing up for Vermont values. Jim Condos, our Secretary of State, you're showing nationally how an election can be run safely and fairly. Beth Pierce, you're always innovative as our treasurer. We really appreciate it. And Doug Hoffer, it's really important what you do to show that Democrats care how money is spent. We're accountable. And of course, we have two new statewide candidates who are running inspiring campaigns. David Zuckerman, you are a candidate for governor. We're behind you, and each of us is going to do everything we can to help you in this challenging race to get across the finish line and win. And Molly Gray, thank you. You have made people really excited about your candidacy, and we're going to work and help you, and you're going to win. So let's all pull together, top to bottom on this ticket, and get all of our candidates elected. I want to make 3 quick points about the world we're in. 2020 is quite astonishing. In this single year, we have had a pandemic that has cost us 200,000 American lives, 1 million people infected. That hasn't happened since 1918. And then we also have this economic catastrophe that occurred as a result of COVID, where we have unemployment levels that are at depression levels. This is an extraordinarily challenging year. Number 2 point, President Trump. It's a disaster. He'd be a terrible president in the best of times, but he is the worst possible president in the worst of times. Ignoring the reality of COVID, ignoring the reality of climate change, ignoring the reality of the call to justice by separating families at the border. I'm not going to go on about him because you know and you feel all the bad things that he does and how it's eroding and decaying our democratic norms. It's a real threat. But the 3rd point I want to make is what really gives me some hope and optimism. We can win in November. We can win in November. We won in the House of Representatives in 2018, and I've seen the new people that Americans have elected. And it is the most diverse caucus in the history of our country. And we have passed really good legislation that you would approve of. Fairness towards our dreamers, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, climate change legislation, $500 billion savings by price negotiation in big pharma, and the list goes on. You don't hear about it because once we pass it, it gets buried by Mitch McConnell. But that's where November comes in. If we get a Democratic Senate, and I think we will, and we get a Democratic president, and I think we will, the foundation for progressive legislation is there. And we are going to move that through the House, through the Senate, and it's going to be on the president's desk, and he'll sign it. The other hopeful sign for me is really what we're seeing with the move for racial justice, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement, and the horror all of us experienced when we saw that officer have his knee on the neck of George Floyd for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And that was not just a bad man doing a bad thing. He had his hands in his pocket. He was casual. He thought the department had his back. It reflected his sense that the culture was behind him. That's what we're finally challenging. So yes, it's tough times that we're in, But it is a moment, this next election, when we can change it, and we will. Good luck, hang in, help one another, stay close.
Thank you, Congressman Welch. You give us all hope at a time when we desperately need it. And now it's time to give out our awards to our winners tonight. And to help me do that was my friend, Chris Curtis, Chief of the Public Protection Division of the Vermont AG's office, a man who always brings a smile with him into the State House. It's really a pleasure to work with Chris. He's compassionate. He's always looking out for the little guy. Chris is here to tell us about how the Curtis Hoff Awards came to be. Chris Curtis.
Hey everybody, Chris Curtis here. Thank you for joining us again for another terrific Democratic Party event. I'm just so pleased and honored to be part of this every year, and that the party remembers David Curtis and Phil Hoff. You know, my dad and Phil were law partners and spent many years together working to advance the cause of civil rights in this state. Governor Hoff, of course, was a giant in the state's history, promoting civil rights, working to modernize state government, making sure it works for all Vermonters. And my dad joined him in many of those causes. In fact, you know, my dad was somebody who really put his the ethics and morals of the Democratic Party into practice, and not just in a political sphere, but just trying to make a difference in the community every day. So while we're here to remember some of those that came before, we're also here to celebrate you. It's you, the members of this party, that make a difference every day, large and small, in your community. And when I think about my dad's contributions, you know, David Curtis was a guy who, in the process of coming out as a gay man, which was not easy to do in the late 70s, early 80s, he was very public about his status, but he also was invested in trying to make a difference in this country. You know, he left Vermont in the early 80s to go to Tennessee and run legal services in a largely African-American community about 40 miles south of Nashville. After that, he spent 2 years working on the Rosebud Reservation, directing legal services to help Native Americans defeat the conditions of poverty that they're confronted with every single day. So we have a long, long way to go in this country, and I think at a moment of civil unrest and greater attention to systemic and historic injustice, it's an opportune time to remember the people who came before us. Today, as a matter of fact, we're remembering a great justice on our Supreme Court who advanced the cause of women. So we have a long way to go. I know that every day, you, the people of this party, are making that contribution, you're making that commitment. That's why you're here. You don't have to run for office to make a difference. You can advance the cause of justice in your community by organizing, by doing what's important to you, and by making a difference. You know, I think one of the greatest accomplishments my dad took a great amount of pride in was being invited by then Senator Jim Jeffords to go to Washington and testify in support of the Ryan White Care Act. Of course, Ryan White was a young man who had contracted AIDS, and the Congress was appropriating monies to support rural efforts to bring those service dollars back to communities to help people living with AIDS. And my dad felt like he had a special responsibility because he had access to good health care for himself, but he wanted to make sure that other people were not left behind, especially in rural areas like Vermont. So when that appropriation came, he had an opportunity to testify in Congress at the invitation of his good friend, Jim Jeffords. And that rural care clinic model, which now is part of the fabric of the University of Vermont Medical Center, is really the model for the nation. So Vermont had a small part in advancing that cause. That's a way to make a difference, and you can too. So don't lose hope. Now's the time to make change. Now's the time to be invested in getting the outcomes that we want to see as a party and as a people. And if there's one thing I know, it's that believing in others, believing in the power of community, investing in other people, and offering to help is the single biggest contributor to social change. My dad knew that. Phil Hoff knew that. They trust Vermonters, and Vermonters can help lead the nation again. Thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you for joining us for the Curtis Hoff Awards in 2020. And good luck, and let's go out there and win in November. Wait, you're still here? It's over. Go home. Actually, you're probably already home. And while I have you for one more moment, I just want to give a shout out to my good friend Terry Anderson, one of this year's award winners. I couldn't be happier because Terry just exemplifies exactly that Curtis Hoff spirit that I've been talking about. And he really embodies the values of the Vermont Democratic Party. Terry, congratulations. There couldn't be a better award winner this year. You have invested countless hours calling on the phones, turning out volunteers, getting ready for this election, and nobody has earned this more than you. And frankly, you know, your service to community goes back far longer and far deeper than just party politics. So I couldn't be happier. I know that my dad and Phil Hoff would be so happy that you are recognized this year as one of our Curtis Hoff Award winners. Thanks so much. Have a great night, everybody.
Terry, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Becca. It's really special. It's great to get it from you. It's great to be sharing an award with Joey tonight. But it's especially meaningful for me. You know, I got to work with Governor Hoff's son when he was in the state Senate. But David Curtis was somebody who was a colleague. We worked together in politics. We worked together in HIV/AIDS.
Right.
And we were friends of many years. And so to receive an award from Chris Curtis, his son, with his name on it, it really means something. I've been involved in Vermont Democratic Party politics since, 1984.
Yeah.
I was young. And it's just really, I've worked with so many chairs through the ages. I've worked with so many people in the party. It's been an incredible pleasure and opportunity. And I've just loved doing it. I'm not done. I'm done being chair,
Right.
but I'm going to keep being involved and do what I can to advance the Democratic Party. This recognition.
Very glad to hear that, Terry, because we love you being involved. And it's really lovely to be able to have this chance to chat with you. I'm curious, you've had such a long and active life with the party, and I'm wondering if you could share with us, who are some of the candidates, either locally, statewide or nationally, that have inspired you over the years to stay still engaged in politics?
Sure. Well, I mean, that's like asking a parent who's their favorite child.
Yes.
I've worked for so many over the ages.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Senator Leahy, Senator Sanders, Representative Welsh, Governor Dean. Governor Cunin was the first campaign I worked on here in Vermont, and we made history with that.
Yeah.
But I always go back to the first presidential campaign I ever volunteered on. And that was Shirley Chisholm in 1972. I was 13 years old. I went door to door in the neighborhood I grew up with in Baltimore, knocking on doors, asking people to vote for Shirley Chisholm, because she just struck something in me about the importance of bringing new voices in hearing from people traditionally unrepresented in the political process. And I've tried to have, her motto of unbought and unbossed, being an independent, strong voice. We need that in politics today. And I think she laid the groundwork for so many other people who came around: Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, so many people. And so I keep going back to her as I think about my political inspiration,
Yeah, I do, Terry. She's someone that I often think about. And when I'm having a rough day at the State House, I will go home and I will listen to some of her speeches, because she was a powerful and very inspiring woman. And I've always been a little bit jealous that you've been able to share those memories of working on her campaign. It's just what a
minor way. Let me be clear.
Oh, of course. But it's history making, and it's really exciting to be part of those moments. And I'm wondering too, I know this is going to be another tough question, but as you look back over your long career with the Democratic Party, what are some of the things that you're most proud of? Because you've given so much to us here in Vermont.
I think in some ways, the things that I'm proudest of, there's some campaigns I've run here. I helped run a campaign in 1986 for my friend Ben Truman. He was running against a city council person who nobody thought he could beat. He was a total underdog. And when the vote came out on election night, he was ahead by 1 vote. When the recount was done, he won by 7 and went on to serve several terms in the legislature. And it was just a reminder to me of, if you do the work, if you engage people, if you build a grassroots effort, you can win. And there's a real reflection of Vermont politics. But I think the other thing I'm proudest of in terms of accomplishments is just the degree to which, when I served on the Democratic National Committee, which I've done several times now in several incarnations, is able to really pass and work for rules changes that opened up the party, that reformed a lot of the way we operated. And I think we've seen candidates come along, whether it's President Obama, whether it was Senator Sanders, who were able to benefit from that openness, that commitment to reform and involvement. And I'm really proud of the role I played in helping make some of those changes happen. They're not the stuff that gets headlines, but they're really important in terms of how the party operates.
Terry, when you say that's not the stuff that makes headlines, I know that's true for so many of the people that give their time to politics here in Vermont, right? So certainly we're going to hear from Representative Donovan in a little bit. And, the two of us being in elected office, certainly we get more attention because of that. But it's really the people who volunteer on campaigns, who work the phones at the office, who really help us to get out the vote. And that story that you just told too, of being up just by 1 vote, right? And then as the night goes on, you pick up a few more. That's volunteers got those people to the polls, right? And it's so important for us to remember all of the infrastructure behind all of the races that are happening right now. So.
Exactly.
Well, Terry, we are so excited for you. We are sad that you are no longer our chair, but we know we're in good hands with Bruce, and we're excited that you are still going to be around and you're going to continue to be invested in Vermont Democrats.
So, you can't get rid of me.
We don't want to.
Thank you
so much. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Before we go to a commercial break, I want to remind all of you that during the break is a great time to check out the online auction. You can bid on so many interesting items, including something that we're all wanting to get our hands on, which is a very cool picture of President Obama that Senator Leahy took aboard Air Force One. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of competition for that. There are also some really great Taste of Vermont gift baskets available. Tickets are only $5 a piece, and the baskets themselves are valued at over $100. So buy your tickets, support the party, maybe take home a basket full of goodies. And another congratulations to Terry. And now we're off for a commercial break.
There are big differences in the choice for governor. The minimum wage. David Zuckerman will raise it. Phil Scott has vetoed it twice. David Zuckerman will pass a climate jobs plan. Phil Scott supported loopholes for corporate polluters. David Zuckerman will invest in our schools, from pre-K to our Vermont state colleges. Phil Scott proposed cuts that would have meant losing over 4,000 jobs in our schools.
I'm David Zuckerman. I'm running for a better future, a stronger Vermont.
Paid for by Zuckerman for VT, Orly Munsing Treasurer.
Welcome back, everyone. Our second Curtis Hoff Award winner tonight is Representative Joey Donovan. Joey has given incredible service to the state of Vermont, serving as a representative for almost 2 decades. And she has given so many of us some really good laughs with her irreverence and wisecracking. Congratulations, Joey.
Hi, I'm Mary Sullivan. I am Joey Donovan's district mate in Burlington in the legislature, and it certainly has been a pleasure and a kick serving with her these last 6 years. As I've been out door knocking during the campaigns, it was always interesting. I hear that, oh, Joey, yes, I went to kindergarten with her. Joey, she's my second cousin. Or Joey, I think she dated my brother in high school. So many people had great stories, and it was always really fun to listen. But more importantly, Joey has chaired the caucus for the Working Vermonters Caucus, and she's done a fabulous job with that, and certainly her heart and soul are very devoted to those issues, and it's been just a trip serving with her. So I'm just really pleased that she received this award that is so richly deserved. Thank you.
Hi, I'm former Representative Tim German, and it's my pleasure to tell you why I'm thrilled my friend and colleague, Johanna Letty Donovan, has won a well-deserved Curtis Hoff Award. Joey is a Democrat's Democrat. She wore her compassion for people on her sleeve for over 20 years in the Vermont legislature. I often watched in awe as she sprung to her feet in debates to argue passionately for democratic values. She is a gifted orator, fearless, humorous, of course, insightful, always cutting to the heart of an issue with direct language and lots of stories. Joey has friends and admirers from all political parties and backgrounds. I'll always remember her cabaret jokes, her emotional annual St. Patrick's Day devotional, her encyclopedic history of Burlington on Stump the Chumps. She is a Letty after all. And of course, that crazy, large, wonderful, and accomplished family of hers. Joey, I've been telling you for a couple of years there is life after Montpelier. Now you will find out for yourself, and I know you'll make the most of it. But I also know that Montpelier is about to lose one of its long-serving House superstars and one of Vermont's greatest and most lovable Democrats. I know that David Curtis and Phil Hoff are smiling tonight at this recognition of all you have done for Vermont. Thank you for being a great friend and mentor. And now you owe me a beer. Thank you.
Johanna Letty Donovan, the matriarch of the dynasty, the leader of the people, the queen bee of the Queen Sea, and as Representative McCullough would say, Vermont's own Mother General. I want to tell you about a dark, snowstormy night in the city of Montpelier when at the bottom of a Ben & Jerry's container and a bottle of wine or 2 or 3, a remarkable thing occurred. Johanna Letty Donovan admitted on February 23rd at 9:23 p.m. that I was right about something. Yes, in fact, she had put the empty Ben & Jerry's container back in the freezer, and I could prove it. That was a moment in my life I will never forget. Joey has a new gig lined up. You see, she's going to be a consultant for Zoom. And we all know that one day on the House floor, Zoom was watching carefully to see how the legislature was using their product when they heard the eloquent words of the member from Burlington. They heard him, we heard him, the whole world heard him. And now Zoom has consulted with Joey for her wise and sage advice. So I'd like to say thank you to Joey. I'd like to say thank you for your hard work, for your dedication, for that wonderful speech on marriage equality, for standing up for our children, for fighting for workers. I want to thank you for being the conscience of the Democratic Party and reminding us that despite the polls and the pundits and all of the politics, what our party really stands for. And I want to say goodbye for now. But as Teddy Kennedy so eloquently said in that convention in 1980, which I think you might have been a delegate to, The work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die. Thank you, Johanna.
Joey, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Senator. And I also want to thank the Vermont Democratic Party for this award. It is a really distinct honor. 20 years ago, after raising my 6 children and years of teaching adults in Chittenden County how to improve their skills to enter the job market and become independent citizens, my neighbors in Burlington chose me to represent them in the Vermont House of Representatives. It was the honor of my life, a roller coaster ride of highs and lows, and an experience I will never forget. The Vermont I was born in was a much different place than the Vermont of today. No, Teddy Roosevelt was not president, despite the rumors. I'm not quite that old, but there were more cows than people. Burlington and Victory both had 1 representative in the Vermont House. All the decisions facing our government were for the most part made by men, and all the constitutional offices were filled by Republicans. Although I miss the cows and the dairy farms, I would say that we Democrats have come a long way. Now, I grew up in a proudly Democratic family. There were certain lessons my siblings and I learned when we were children. We were Irish, we were Catholic, and we were Democrats. One good sister of mercy, while preparing my brother for his first communion, proposed that he do some work like our mother would if the President of the United States were coming to her house. The first grader quickly responded, "She wouldn't do anything. He's a Republican." Some might say that was indoctrination, but we refer to it as deep culture. We were Democrats then, and we are today Democrats because of the values of this party. We care for the poor, for the homeless, the oppressed. And we understand that we will be judged not by the strength of our most powerful and most wealthy, but by the strength of our weakest link. I am proud of that legacy. And while I'm moving on from the State House, my commitment to this philosophy has never been stronger. My commitment to good government is as strong as my belief in diversity of the decision makers around the table. I am particularly proud of the women who over the years have stuck their necks out and taken on the challenges of leadership, as our senator, who is our host for tonight. I remember being brought literally to tears as I folded yet another basket of laundry piled on my dining room table the day after the election in 1984, when finally the vote count was completed and I heard the news that Madeline Kunin had been elected governor. I am proud that if all goes well on November 3rd, this January, nearly the entire leadership of the Vermont State House will be comprised of talented, competent, and energetic women. I wish them all well, and I'm here to help. I'm so proud and honored to be receiving this award tonight. To be recognized by my fellow Democrats and colleagues is an incredible honor. But to have the award named for the 2 men that I deeply admired, David Curtis, is very, very special. David Curtis and I ran together and really in opposition of each other for that state Senate in that challenging 6-member Chittenden County Senate district. Although we both lost, we formed a friendship that was lasting and continues to this day through his sons. David was smart, caring, and progressive. He was willing to admit mistakes and take action to rectify them, as he did when he publicly left the Republican Party and became a leader, out and proud, in the Democratic Party. Governor Phil Hoff was our lone Burlington representative when I first met him. But he soon was elected governor, and where he embarked on a mission to transform Vermont. His legacy as governor continues to be felt today. In 1958, my father, Bernard Leddy, ran for governor of Vermont with the slogan of "End 104 with Leddy." Although many thought it was a protest against some state highway project, it actually referred to 104 years of Republican domination of the Vermont political scene. That November 4th election night ended in a statistical tie, and a recount was called for. Vermont didn't know who its governor was until a recount occurred in January on the third floor of the State House. And then it was announced that Lieutenant Governor Robert Stafford beat Leddy by 719 votes. It was said at the time that Leddy drew a relieved breath. My family's commitment to public service remains strong and resolute. From my brother Jim's service in the Senate, our Attorney General's pursuit of justice, to my daughters who care for the sick and teach the young. The Donovans of today keep the faith and focus on the work toward a more perfect Vermont. Thank you so much for your friendship and for this great honor. 30 days from today, I hope to Zoom again with you as we celebrate our nation's new beginning. Thank you so very much.
Joey, thank you so much for those remarks. There are so many things I want to ask you about. One of them is, I'm thinking about all the people watching today that we're thinking about the candidates now who are running as openly LGBTQ. And I know that has been a long time in coming. There's been a lot of changes that have happened. What was it like for David Curtis to leave the party and leave his party and decide that he was going to come out and more centered in who he was? Can you tell us a little bit about that? It must have been such a journey.
It was such a journey. And I think David, he did it with such commitment, such humor.
Yeah.
And he was such an honest broker, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and there were so many others. It was a real moment of pride for me when Speaker Gay Simonton appointed me to be the House representative on I think it was called the Family Reconciliation Commission.
Mm-hmm.
John Campbell was the representative from the Senate. And probably a commission of 30 people, business people, teachers, educators, Governor Hoff. We traveled throughout the state of Vermont and went to meetings in every little town across the state. And it was remarkable to hear the stories of Vermonters. A couple of women who were senior citizens and were so frightened that if one died first, the other was not going to be able to collect Social Security. So many other issues. Children coming in small towns talking with pride about their two moms.
Yeah.
It was one story after another that was moving. And it was that commission and those visits that we were able to take those stories back into the State House and pass gay marriage, which was one of the most things that I did and was involved in that I was most proud of.
Yeah.
It was truly amazing. I remember during those days, people would come up to me and say, you know, I think civil unions is fine. I'm all for civil unions. And I sometimes would have to gently remind them that in my memory, they were not so much for civil unions.
Right.
I think they had evolved. And now it is just, it's hard to believe that anybody ever had an issue on any of these.
Well, so many of us who benefited from those laws, both the civil unions law and then same-sex marriage, you know, we owe such a debt of gratitude to all the senators and House members who I know that time was not easy. When I talked to my colleagues in the Senate about that time, and people would confront them, you know, in the bank or at the post office about how they'd voted. And it really is a beautiful thing that as you look back on that, even though that was such a hard time, I can tell it's something you're very, very proud of.
It was a very, very moving thing. And I do think that those of us who were involved in gay marriage had it easier than those who really set the stage and passed civil unions.
Yeah. Yeah. It took thousands of conversations all over Vermont. So very, very grateful for you for.
Well, and the beautiful thing now is that when I talk to my grandchildren, younger people, it just doesn't matter.
I know.
such beautiful people and accept friends
Yes.
and others just as who they are. And
I
it's
agree. I see
hard.
that. I see that in my own children as well. It's like, what's the big deal, right? So I know that was a very pivotal moment for you. What are some of the other things? You've had such a long career in the legislature, things that you're proud of that you could share with
I
us.
think the other thing, I chaired the education department when we started to really look at school consolidation. It has been a tough road to hoe, but I always felt from day one that it was really giving opportunities to Vermont students.
Yeah.
There were too many schools that, you couldn't take algebra until you were in high school, or you never were exposed to languages, whereas a larger district was able to do so many things. I think school consolidation has helped bring many more opportunities to students in smaller districts. And despite the trouble, I think we have a richer educational system because of it. I feel very proud about that. And I feel very proud about giving high school students the opportunity to take college courses.
Yes,
and really
dual enrollment, big success.
Step into college with some college credits is a big thing. And we did that too, by offering it in hopes of first generation high school students, so that they could really understand that they were ready and able to take the rigorous study and do well.
Yeah.
So those are the two of the most things that I'm very proud of.
And one of the things that I was remarking on, or rather thinking about as you were remarking about, that this party is held together by deep values about equity and fairness. And, thinking about those times in your career that you feel like you made a difference, it goes right to those issues of equality and evening the playing fields. And I know it's one of the reasons I'm so proud to be here tonight with both you and Terry, because you're both people who really stand for the values of this party. So,
well, thank you. I'm very, very proud if anybody thinks that that's true. Very happy to.
Representative Donovan, thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Our final award of the night is the Lifetime Achievement Award, which goes to community members who've worked hard on behalf of the Democratic Party. This year's award goes to the Burgess family of Morrisville. And here to give the award is former Speaker of the House, Shap Smith.
Hi, this is Shap Smith. It's my great honor tonight to present the Vermont Democratic Party's Lifetime Achievement Award to the Burgess family, whose involvement in our party over many decades has contributed enormously to our success. Everyone, and I mean everyone, knows the Burgesses. The day before he passed away, John Burgess, the patriarch of the family, was visited by Connor Casey, then the party chair, with a six-pack of beer in hand. An event was coming up that Connor said he couldn't put together without John's help. The last two phone calls that John took before he passed were from Senator Leahy and Congressman Welch.
Hi, and I'm Floyd Neese. 3 generations of Burgesses have donated thousands of hours to party efforts at every level, from organizing towns that had never been organized before, to chairing town and county committees, to parliamentarian of the party and membership on the executive committee. They've manned booths at the fair, blown up balloons, hand-signed campaign materials, and John was always there as a strong voice for labor. There were a couple of times when 2 of those generations spent afternoons helping me hand paint campaign signs in my driveway in Johnson. Their work continues even now. Just yesterday, Ginny told me that she's going to be making phone calls for Dennis LaBounty, remember that name, our next great Democratic state representative from Caledonia 4.
You could always count on him for those kinds of things.
And for other things as well.
On occasion, every member of the Burgess family can be counted on to offer an opinion, and sometimes they even agreed with us.
And sometimes, after a particularly animated conversation where they didn't,
well, you might drive by their house and notice your primary opponent's signs on their lawn.
which just might be the exact reason why the Burgess family deserves a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Vermont Democratic Party. Sometimes they're the conscience of the party.
And sometimes they were just difficult.
And couldn't that be said for all Democrats, Shap?
Floyd, are you trying to make sure that I have no elected office future in the state of Vermont? The Vermont Democratic Party thanks you, the Burgess family, for all you've done and all you are still doing. For your dedication and loyalty to the party, your indefatigable energy for political discourse, and all the blood, sweat, and tears you've contributed over the years. Your Democratic Party awards all of you, John, Ginny, Matthew, Timothy, Peter, Julia, Jason, and the rest of the grandchildren, our future labor force, the first Lifetime Achievement Award. Congratulations to you all.
Congratulations to the Burgess family, and thank you so much for your service. Coming up, we'll hear from Secretary of State Jim Condos, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and all of our statewide candidates. But first, I'd like to share a video with you about the Leahy Fellowship. This unique program was created by Senator Leahy to train the next generation of political activists. I think you'll find it inspiring. Here's the information on the Leahy Fellowship.
Hi, I am Representative Jill Krowinski, and I am the House Majority Leader. Over the last two campaign cycles, the Vermont Democratic House Campaign and Senator Leahy have teamed up to create the Leahy Fellowship Program. And this program has been critical to keeping and growing our majority in the Vermont House. The Leahy Fellowship Program is unique and fantastic. What we do is we recruit and train young people from all corners of the state on how to run and win grassroots campaigns. And the other win on this win-win situation is that House candidates get the support they need to run in their targeted district where they have very hard races. In 2016, with the help of the Leahy Fellowship Program, we were able to defend 15 targeted seats. And then again in last cycle, we were able to pick up 12 seats to grow our majority to the House to 95. This program is so important, and I'm so proud of the diversity and the work that we've been able to do together. Because of their support, we've been able to pass policies to fight climate change, to enact police reform, to protect reproductive rights, and to protect Vermonters from gun violence. Our work is not done though, and we will continue with the Leahy Fellowship Program this year. I am so excited to introduce you to one of the Leahy Fellows that you're going to meet in a second, Asha Carroll. Thank you so much, Senator Leahy, for your support.
My name is Asha Carroll, and I am the Digital Director for the Vermont Democratic Party. I'm a 2018 alumna of the Leahy House Campaign Fellows Program. My participation in the program was pivotal in my professional development and led me to my decision to pursue a career in politics full-time. As a Leahy Fellow, I gained practical campaign skills and the confidence to lead while working closely with candidates and Vermont Democratic Party leadership. I learned the importance of running data-driven campaigns, how to build an effective voter network, and applied critical thinking to campaign strategy to help candidates speak to the voters who need to hear from them most. The Leahy Fellows program is not just an immersive and supporting learning experience. It's so much more than that. The program's benefits are threefold. Leahy Fellows benefit from the on-the-field experience. Candidates benefit from the boost their campaigns receive from a full-time organizer. And the Vermont Democratic Party is able to strengthen support in communities for cycles to come. This synergistic mission creates the foundation for the future of Vermont leadership. When we invest in fellows, candidates, and communities, we invest in the future of Vermont. In 2018, my candidates won 3 very competitive House seats in a predominantly Republican county. When I see them working hard for Vermonters in the State House, I'm proud to know that I helped get them there. Senator Leahy has paid interns in his office for their work since his start in the Senate in 1975. Then he set a standard that would not become common practice for decades. In doing so, he continues to open the door to a political career for people like me. Thank you, Senator Leahy, for funding this important program that helps get Democratic House candidates elected while giving young Vermonters like me their start in politics.
Now we want to introduce you to another exciting program. This one is through the Vermont Democratic Party. It's a new multicultural intern program that will be open to members of the refugee community and new Americans. As Democrats, we're committed to getting everyone involved in the political process. We want all citizens to be civically engaged. This new internship program will help us to achieve these goals. Indra Acharya is here to tell us about this great opportunity. Indra?
Greetings, fellow Vermonters and Vermont Democrats. My name is Indra Acharya, and I'm the Constituency Organizing Manager for Vermont Democratic Party. In this role, I work closely with community leaders, activists, organizers, and members of BIPOC and former refugee immigrant communities. Throughout my conversation with the community leaders from former refugee immigrant background, the question of language accessibility and culturally relevant engagement was raised. And as a former refugee who came to Vermont not too long ago and proudly calls Vermont home, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that it really spoke to my heart. And it was an experience that was shared by many members within the community. We were fortunate enough to receive gracious donation from Paul and Eileen Gravel through Nick Carter and their 2020 Vision Venture project. We received a donation of $5,000, with which we are launching multicultural internship project. In this internship project, we are recruiting members from within the community who speak Nepali, French, Swahili, Arabic, and Burmese languages. These interns, who have a lot of experience of working within the community, will help us create engagement, awareness in the areas of voter registration, mail-in ballots, in-person voting, and Democratic Party and its core values. As Democrats, we believe in creating more inclusive and welcoming environment for everybody, especially those that are left out and left behind. I believe that this internship project will help us to create more authentic participation and engagement among former refugee immigrant communities within Vermont.
Thank you, Indra. Thank you so much for all you've done to make this program a reality. Now we'll take another commercial break, and be sure to check out the online auction site. Place your bids for a full private access opportunity at the Latches Theater in downtown Brattleboro, or bid for a night at the lovely Nutmeg Inn or some other special trips around Vermont. The auction closes at 10, and don't forget to buy your $5 raffle tickets for the gift basket. Winners will be announced at the end of our evening program. So go place some bids, buy your raffle tickets, and then come back to hear from our statewide candidates and our keynote speaker, Elizabeth Warren.
I'm Molly Gray, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I grew up on a farm in Newberry. I worked in Washington for Congressman Welch and across the globe with the Red Cross. Today, I serve as an Assistant Attorney General. Together, we can take Vermont forward so our rural communities thrive, our families are cared for, and our land is protected for future generations. I'm proud to have earned the support of Senator Leahy, Congressman Welch, Governor Kunin, and Vermonters like you. I'm Molly Gray, and I'm asking for your vote.
Paid for by Molly Gray for Vermont. Treasurer, Mary Keogh.
Welcome back. Remember, all the proceeds from the raffle and the auction will go to support the important work of the VDP as we head into the last stretch of the 2020 campaign season. It's now my pleasure to introduce a man who's truly done an excellent job making sure our elections are secure, safe, and fair. Secretary of State Jim Kondos has become a national leader as the president of the National Association of Secretaries of State. We are so fortunate to have Jim working on behalf of Vermonters. People across the country are worried about the security of their elections, but not here. We know that Jim is on it. Jim Kondos.
And welcome to the Curtis Hoff Awards. This is Jim Kondos, your Vermont Secretary of State, and I want to send special thanks to both Terry Anderson and Joey Donovan, who are receiving tonight's awards. I think we can acknowledge that we are in extraordinary and trying times. COVID-19 has challenged many aspects of our society and our lives. Elections have not been immune to that. We've heard the stories elsewhere: long lines, voter confusion and suppression, and even COVID contact at the polls. Planning for us started back in February with two overarching goals driving our decision-making. One, protecting Vermonters' voting rights, and two, protecting the health and safety of voters, town clerks, and their poll workers. We've also heard the many success stories around the country, particularly in those states with expanded vote by mail, which has proven to be safe, simple, and secure. Vermont was already in excellent position due to our existing laws. To that end, the voter turnout for our Vermont August primaries was overwhelming, setting a new record and confirming that our planning was spot on, and Vermonters embraced vote by mail. I also extend my thanks to all of Vermont's hardworking town clerks who stepped up to embrace the initiatives we implemented in this age of a pandemic. All election officials strive for two things: one, smooth sailing elections with no issues, and two, clear margins for winners. We did that. By midnight on primary night, we had 98% of Vermont's poll locations reporting their unofficial results. Contrary to rhetoric, vote by mail is not different. It is just an additional option for voters. When you look at an absentee ballot, an early vote ballot, or an in-person voted ballot, all have one constant: the ballot looks exactly the same. And by the way, they're all counted the same. Nearly all states have some form of vote by mail, just different restrictions. This is not and should not be a partisan or political issue. Again, it's simple, safe, and secure. Vermont has endured two lawsuits by Republicans in recent days, one in federal court and one in state court. Thanks to our collaboration with Attorney General TJ Donovan, both of those were dismissed. Over the last 2 weeks, ballots have been mailed directly to active registered voters. And I will end by saying, as Vermont Secretary of State, I will always work to ensure that our elections are free, fair, and accurate, that the true voter fraud in this country is the denial of the opportunity for any eligible American to cast a ballot, that the more eligible Vermonters who vote, the stronger our democracy, and that no Vermonter should have to choose between their health and their right to vote. So please remember, your vote is your voice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. The next segment we've got for you tonight is a request from our Vermont youth to get out and vote, because they can't and we can. Our young people are counting on us. This video is called Vote for Me.
Hi, my name is Lily Buren and I live in Brattleboro.
Hello, my name is Amelia Wogden and I am 16 years old. As someone who cannot vote in this upcoming election, I would like to try and convince as many people as possible to vote in Democratic candidates this November.
My name is Lydia Hazard-Leal and I am currently a student at the Early College Program at CCV in Brattleboro, Vermont.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Stamler and I think it's extremely important for young people to get out and vote this year.
Donald Trump and his enabling Republican Party are a threat to our democracy. And if we want systemic change, we need to vote in as many blue candidates as possible.
Ultimately, we have a chance as a society to determine the course of the next few years, and we can decide the way that we want to be governed.
Right now, in our country, there is so much injustice and so much inequality that could be changed by voting this year. At age 17, I personally will not be able to cast my vote in November. However, as a young person, I understand that this election marks a pivotal moment in our country's history.
I encourage you to vote Democrat because I believe they have strong ideas that would change our society.
The Democratic Party has shown time and again a willingness to fight to create a more fair and just society for everyone. And ultimately, I think that the Democrats' vision for the future of the country is the one that will create the best future for everyone in Vermont and in the United States.
I myself will be under the age of 18 and won't be able to voice my opinion for the 2020 election. So it is incredibly important that if you are 18 or older to go out and register to vote. My future, along with yours, depends on it.
Please vote for me this November.
If you're not going to vote for yourself, please vote for me.
So please, I urge you to vote blue this November.
Vote for our future.
As a former teacher, I know just how important it is to our youth that we turn out to vote. Thank you to all the folks involved in putting together the Vote For Me video. And make sure you send in your ballots. Our next guest is our candidate for governor, David Zuckerman. I've had the pleasure of working with David both in the Senate and when he presided over the Senate as the lieutenant governor. I've been out campaigning with David this past week, and I've been struck by his empathy and his concern for his constituents. David has worked for 2 decades in the legislature to make life better for Vermonters. Please join me in supporting David Zuckerman.
Thank you to the Democratic Party for holding this event. Both David Curtis and Governor Phil Hoff represent the heart and soul of what being a Democrat is all about. Fighting for justice beyond oneself, seeing issues before others realize how important they are, and working to make our world a better place. It is great that we are honoring Terry Anderson and Joey Donovan for their incredible work for the Democratic Party and Vermonters across the state, as they represent exactly those values. Thank you for your lifetime of dedication to these issues and the Democratic Party. I also want to thank you all for attending this virtual event and supporting the Democratic Party. Now let me be blunt. The election in November is the most important election of our lifetime. At the national level, it is clear we must vote Joe Biden and Kamala Harris into the White House. At the federal level, we must vote in strong Democrats like Peter Welch, who will fight for Vermont values. And at the state level, the legislators and leaders that Vermonters vote into office in November will be on the front lines of building our economy out of this pandemic. I'm here today to ask you and all Vermonters to support me to be Vermont's next governor. In this moment, it is so important to recognize everything that Vermonters have done to keep themselves, their families, and their communities safe. But as we look forward to the choice in November, we must also recognize that now, more than ever, Vermonters need leadership that will provide support, guidance, and direction as we rebuild. Many Vermonters are struggling. They're not earning enough to feed their families, cannot find affordable housing, and are concerned about how and where they will find a job. As a farmer and small business owner, I understand what it is like to work every day to address the issues right in front of me. And there is a lot of immediate work to continue to do on COVID. But as a farmer, I also know that I have a responsibility to build the soil and plan for the pests, the weather, and the other challenges that are inevitably to come. In government, that means passing the legislation that will build a stronger economy, stronger schools, and stronger communities coming out of this current crisis, as well as tackling the issues of today. It is not enough to simply react in the moment. In farming or in government, we have to plan and build in resiliency for the future. We must make sure all workers are paid enough to meet their basic needs and that our unemployed Vermonters will not be denied help for weeks on end when they need it most. Vermonters deserve clear and consistent guidance for schools and teachers that put safety and education before economic convenience. And we can't allow our state colleges to be shut down. They play a vital role in our communities and to so many young Vermonters. It was the Democratic majorities in the House and Senate that saved our state colleges when the governor essentially shrugged his shoulders and said they might be a casualty of COVID. Democrats said no. We can rebuild our rural economy by expanding broadband across the state and by creating good-paying jobs that help us address the climate crisis and reduce the energy burden on struggling and fixed-income Vermonters. COVID-19 has shown us universal access to testing and treatment is possible. Now we need to work to ensure all Vermonters have access to health care all of the time. And now is the time to tackle racial justice issues head-on to make sure that every Vermonter who lives here and those hoping to move here know they are welcome, respected, included, and safe. I look forward to building a Vermont for the future by working with Vermonters, our Democratic legislature, our federal delegation, and the Biden and Harris administration. Thank you again to the Democratic Party and all of you. Please join me and my campaign at zuckermanforvt.com to volunteer, get involved, donate, and share your ideas. Together, we can win in November. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Running to serve alongside David Zuckerman is our candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Molly Gray. Molly won a hotly contested four-way primary and has been out crisscrossing the state since that victory. Molly's running to help make Vermont more attractive to young people and to continue to build a safety net for Vermont families. She cares passionately about broadband access and universal childcare. She and her team need our support. We must vote blue up and down the ticket. Here's Molly Gray.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Curtis Hoff Awards ceremony. I'd like to begin by thanking this year's award winners, Terry Anderson and Representative Joey Donovan. Terry, you are the heart and soul of the Democratic Party here in Vermont. Thank you for all you have done and continue to do to grow a party that is inclusive and welcoming and reflective of so much that is good about our state. Congratulations. Joey, I know I joined countless women across Chittenden County and in Montpelier in expressing the deepest gratitude for the trail you've blazed for so many of us. We stand on your shoulders. Congratulations. I'm sorry we can't all be together in person this year, but I'm inspired every day by our resolve and our resilience as Democrats. We're getting through this pandemic together, and together we will defend our democracy and transform the future of this state and our nation. I'm so proud to have earned your support and to be your Democratic nominee for Lieutenant Governor. As I travel around Vermont and listen to communities, I'm reminded again and again that from crisis comes our greatest opportunities. I got into this race because of my deep commitment to helping solve our demographic challenges. Our future depends on our ability to keep a generation here, draw a generation back, and draw a new generation to Vermont. What we've learned from this pandemic is that if we want to recover stronger, we must invest in a more equitable, inclusive, viable, and resilient Vermont for the future. Our future depends on the investments we make right now. Now is our moment to invest in high-speed internet for all Vermonters, in affordable quality childcare for our working families, and a pipeline from our classrooms to the good-paying jobs in our communities. I join so many Vermonters in applauding the legislature for their leadership on climate action, even amidst this pandemic. This is our time. We must be visionary. We must be bold. Here at home, up and down the ticket, as well as across this nation. We must reject the Trump playbook, say no to divisiveness, and come together for a brighter future. Thank you for your support. Thank you for having me this evening, and let's win in November.
Thanks, Molly. Next, we'll be hearing from Attorney General TJ Donovan. TJ has done so much for the people of Vermont, and I especially want to thank him for all the work he and his staff did and continue to do to protect a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. TJ Donovan.
Hey, Vermont Democrats, it's Attorney General TJ Donovan. Great to be with you at the Curtis Hoff Awards dinner where Democrats gather and get ready to win in November. First, let me thank Terry Anderson and congratulate him on being one of the two recipients of the Curtis Hoff Award. Terry, thanks so much for what you've done for your great leadership and your advocacy for so many years. Congratulations, and we wish you well. Second, congratulations to Joey Donovan, State Representative Donovan, Johanna Letty Donovan, or as I call her, Mom, as being the second recipient of the Curtis Hoff Awards dinner. Mom, it is well-deserved and long overdue. And being a proud Democrat, as you are, this has to be special. I know you thought the world of not only David Curtis, but Phil Hoff, two friends of yours, but two heroes of yours, two people who stood up for justice, who stood up for people who didn't have a voice. You stand proudly in those shoes and have paid it forward on those qualities that we hold dear as Democrats. Justice, compassion, standing up for the vulnerable, and making sure the voiceless have a voice. And I want to say this, Mom, thank you for the standard you set for me, for inspiring me to get into public service, for instilling in me the courage to advocate, to fight, and to make sure that everybody has a voice. I learned that from you because that's what I saw you do growing up. I love you. I'm proud of you. We hope to continue your example of leadership, of service, and advocacy for all those who need it in Vermont. We love you. Congratulations.
Thank you, TJ. I know a lot of us in public office in Vermont love our jobs, but I don't know if anyone loves her job as much as Beth Pierce loves hers. Beth inspires me every day when she comes into the State House because she always comes prepared with good cheer and with a commitment to work together. And Beth fiercely cares about the most vulnerable. She doesn't just give lip service to it like a certain other politician. No 631 slogans from Beth, just pure professionalism. Beth Pierce.
Hello, I'm Beth Pierce, your state treasurer, and I'm proud to be with you tonight in the Curtis Hoff event to recognize our Democrats who have worked so hard to make this a better state. Terry Anderson, thank you for all you've done for the party through difficult times and your values. Joey Donovan, I thank you for all the work you've done in the legislature for so many years. You've been a champion of folks that need services in this state, that are marginalized. You've been there as a member of the Ways and Means Committee and chair of the Education Committee. I know that you're retiring from the legislature. Continue to work, I know you will, in various community projects because that's who you are, and I'm so proud to have known you in the legislature. Please, please stay in touch. We all agree on our core values. We believe in economic justice. We believe in social justice. We believe in legal justice. We believe in climate justice. We believe in a society that is free from systemic racism, that is dignity for every single person. Every single person in the state is treated with dignity and respect. That's what we're all about, and I'm so pleased to be with you and celebrate those values. Now, in our office, we manage those through one mission, one goal that we have in everything we do, and that is everyone in this state, everyone in this country should have an opportunity for a lifetime of financial well-being. You want it for yourself, you want it for your family, you want it for your neighbors. I want that for everyone in this state, everyone in this country. And that is at the core of what we do in our various programs. They guide us, and I'm so proud of the work that we've been able to accomplish on behalf of Vermonters. We provide retirement services for 50,000 active, vested, and retired members of the state, the teacher, and the municipal system. 50,000 people with their families. And we provide retirement security for all of them because they deserve it. They've worked hard. They provided safety services for you. They provided environmental improvements for our citizens. They provided educational opportunities for our citizens. They've worked hard. We owe them in their retirement to have dignity and respect and adequate income. I'm so proud of that program, and we've expanded that to help in the private sector. What we've done there is a program called the Green Mountain Secure Retirement Plan, and that provides retirement services and retirement plans for all the folks that are employed in small businesses. We're so proud of that because small businesses are at the core of this economy. They are the backbone of Vermont, and all of those citizens need to be treated with respect, especially as we've been in this COVID environment, those frontline workers. We need to be there to help them. We have a local investment program. We invest in housing and energy, neighborhood rehabilitation. That serves Vermonters. And I'm so proud of our ABLE program. ABLE means Achieving a Better Life Experience and is a program to provide savings opportunities for individuals with disabilities. It is so important to make sure that all folks have that financial security. That's what we're about. That's what you are about. That is so important. That incorporates all the values that we have as Democrats, all the values we have as Vermonters. We need to continue that work. We need to continue that partnership. We need all of you in this room, virtually anyways, to work together with us to make sure that those values are part of our lives and part of every single person's opportunities in the state. Every single person needs to be treated with respect and dignity, and we need to end systemic racism. This is about what we are. This is about how we manage our future. This is about the vision for the future for young folks. And working together, younger people, older people, we can get this done. We need to work together. Let's work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. And thank you to all of our statewide candidates. As all of us in public office know, it's not easy to run for office and make yourself so vulnerable. I have so much respect for all my colleagues who are willing to stick their necks out, run for office, and serve Vermont. Now here's a short montage of our Democratic House members and senators who serve our towns, cities, villages, and counties across our beautiful state. We'll now take a short break. And when we come back, a hero to many of us, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Vermont may only get one voice in the House, but Peter Welch makes it count. Peter puts his Vermont values to work every day as he fights for Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, and racial justice and equity for everyone. He's taking on Trump and combating a global pandemic, working to get aid into the hands of Vermonters in need. We need Peter in Washington because he's a leader we can count on.
Welcome back. There's so much to say about Senator Elizabeth Warren. She's a prolific writer who's written nearly a dozen books. She's a talented law professor who's considered an expert on bankruptcy law. She also proposed and established the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau under President Obama. Warren understands the hardships of Americans because she's lived it. When she was 12, her father was a salesman for Montgomery Ward, and he had a heart attack. This led to many large medical bills, as well as a pay cut because her father could no longer work at his previous job. Eventually, the family's car was repossessed because they failed to make loan payments. To help the family finances, her mother found work in the catalog order department at Sears. And when she was 13, Warren started waiting tables at her aunt's restaurant to help out the family with the finances. Senator Warren deeply understands the plight of working people in Vermont. We're so thrilled that she's joining us here tonight. Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Hello, Vermont Democrats. I wish that we could be in person together, but we know that's just not possible right now. Even so, I wanted to join you today because this is a time of tremendous crisis across our country. People are dying, hundreds a day, from an infectious disease that we could have had under control by now. Our economy is being squeezed to its breaking point. People can no longer deny the evidence of racial injustice in our country. And now, Republicans are trying to steal another Supreme Court seat, one that could undermine our values for generations to come. So much that we hold dear is right on the line. Roe versus Wade, healthcare, climate change, dreamers, voting, the right to join a union, the right to be in America where no one is discriminated against because of the color of their skin, because of how they worship, or because of who they love. Democracy as we know it is in danger. Mitch McConnell has already made it clear that he and Donald Trump will name a new Supreme Court justice before the election. Understand, this is the last gasp of a desperate party that is overrepresented in the halls of power. The last gasp of a corrupt Republican leadership that does not reflect the views of the majority of our people or the values of our country. With voting already underway for the 2020 elections, let us be crystal clear. There should be no confirmation before the inauguration. And that means we got a fight on our hands. We pledge to honor Ruth with action. And we pledge to channel our grief into change. That means we have a job to do in November. Elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And here's why. Joe Biden gets it. He has promised to appoint U.S. Supreme Court justices and federal judges who look like America, who understand the importance of individual civil rights and civil liberties, and who respect essential precedents like Brown versus the Board of Education and Roe versus Wade. But beyond the courts, Joe Biden understands what working families are going through right now. He knows that our system has been rigged to favor the rich and powerful and kick dirt in the face of everyone else, an injustice that falls especially hard on Black and brown communities. And for months now, Joe has put forth a better course of action and a clear vision of what he would do as president. Joe has also selected Senator Kamala Harris to run alongside him. Now, I've known Kamala for a long time, from when she took on Wall Street during the financial crisis as Attorney General of California to working for the people every day as a United States Senator. She's going to be a great partner to Joe Biden in making our government a powerful force for good in the fight for social, racial, and economic justice. I will do everything I can to ensure that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are elected in November so they can get big things done for the American people starting in January 2021. But if we're going to defeat Donald Trump, elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, flip the Senate, hold on to the House, elect Democrats up and down the ballot, and pass progressive reforms, we need everyone to make their voices heard. We need to build a grassroots electoral movement made up of Democrats with different backgrounds, different lived experiences, Democrats that can unite and excite Americans. So today, I'm asking all of you, dig a little deeper, because this is the moment we have been called to. Please, give your time, your heart, whatever you can. Recruit all your friends and family and people you work with and people you go to school with. Recruit them all to do the same, because we face an uphill battle, and you don't get what you don't fight for. I hope you're ready to fight uphill for the weeks ahead, because Joe and Kamala are going up that hill, and I'm going to be right there with them, and we need you in this fight.
Elizabeth Warren has a way of getting us fired up and ready to fight for what we know is right. This past year has brought so many rallies, protests, and marches. The VDP has put together a great montage of so many of these important gatherings. Here is We Are Vermont. There are so many great pictures in that video. I'm sure many of you out there saw yourselves in those pictures from the protests, rallies, and the campaign stops. I hope you've had a chance to participate in the raffle because now it's time for the prize winners to be announced. Congratulations to Julie Lannon from Perkinsville, who won the Orange County basket. And congratulations to Eric Bratstrom from Warren, who won the Windham County basket. Thank you so much for all the people who donated to make those raffle baskets possible. And congratulations, Julie and Eric. You know, I love the Democratic Party. There are so many committed people doing good work for the world. And so many people who inspire us to do even more, even when we're weary, even when we're discouraged. And one of those great Dems was US Senator Paul Wellstone. I'm sure many of you remember Wellstone, who tragically died in a plane crash in 2002. Wellstone is known for his stirring quote, "We all do better when we all do better." But there's another Wellstone quote that's become my personal motto lately, and that's, "This is no time for timidity." Remembering this line helps me stave off feelings of doom and paralysis, and it points me towards usefulness and away from feeling useless. We all have a part to play in the great struggle for a more just, a more gentle world. And as we all head into this general election, we must plan concrete actions to bring about that change. So the question I have is, how can we each become more fully engaged in transforming our world? What can we each bring to this incredibly important task? Do you offer a sharp mind? Do you have time or a meeting place? Do you have money that you can contribute or communication skills? Do you simply have a lot of energy and positivity? Are you fiercely loyal and compassionate? Are you a connector, a researcher, an artist, a performer, an organizer of people? Can you move people with your music or your art or your words? Do you have a big heart that's looking for a landing place? Or do you have a healthy skepticism that's going to coax all of us towards greatness? This call to action tonight is expansive and inclusive and urgent. We need all of us to push ourselves beyond simply caring and worrying. It's time for all of us to do. And I know that doing can feel pointless at times, and the world right now feels like a horrible mess. And what impact do our small actions have on anything? But I'm thinking that this might be the wrong question and the wrong frame entirely for understanding this situation that we're in. The actions themselves, the actions that we take, they are the point. The process of living our values and creating connection, that's the heart of it all. We're living through a deeply troubling time in history, and many of us feel trapped in this nightmare. But I want you to remember that the history shapers are not really the people at the top. It's all of us as citizens, engaged, powerful citizens. And yes, it's true that the yes men and women who surround the president often grab the headlines. But historians are going to look back at the rest of us and wonder what our response was to the insanity. This is no time for timidity or any acrimony among us. Not because we don't have legitimate points of disagreement, but because this horrible moment in time is not just about us. It's about our children and the generations that come after us who will want to know, what did we do to fight the darkness? We have so much to do, so much work to do, Democrats. Find your courage and let's go do it together. Have a good night. Thank you for joining us.